With the official retirement of Ben Roethlisberger, the quarterback situation for the Pittsburgh Steelers for the first time in 18 years is wide open. And we beg that question when it comes to that is who is next at quarterback?
Or what is next for the quarterback position for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Very unknowing, very scary, but also a little exciting at the same time is the future of the quarterback position for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Indeed.
So today in this video, we will be discussing what potentially could be the future for the quarterback position for the Steelers heading into next season. Now, a few things we want to get off our chest first is what will the Steelers be looking at the quarterback position? Because there's been hints, there's been clues, there's been phrases that have been preached from Mike Tomlin and the front office all season long and even heading into the offseason. And one of those main attributes they have been constantly and continuously naming and
preaching, honestly,
and mentioning is mobility. Mobility.
The mobility at the quarterback position nowadays in the NFL is a major need. The game is definitely getting a lot faster year by year, and it's something that you would want in a quarterback.
It's something Mike Tomlin specifically has preached all season long and still going in. He wants a mobile quarterback. What that means, who that is, I don't know. That's why we're here to discuss it right now. But I'll tell you who it's not going to be. It is not going to be Aaron Rodgers. It is not going to be Russell Wilson. And it is definitely not going to be Jimmy Garoppolo.
Hell, it's not even going to be Deshaun Watson. Or should it be?
Although Watson would be one of my go-to guys, but that's a lot of baggage until everything's cleared.
And who knows when that will be cleared, honestly.
Who knows?
But those four guys,
well,
no.
The first three names specifically, that's not going to happen, and in a way, nor should it happen. Because, and this isn't going to be the only time we're going to say it, it's because, one, we don't have the draft capital to trade for it, and we don't have the capital to afford it. Because most of the capital should go towards other needs. O-line, linebacker, corner, maybe receiver.
Guys and phrases that you can pick up, as well as guys that you may want to potentially think about keeping and extending on the team currently. So, I don't want to say throw that money away for a quarterback, but to give that money away for a quarterback when you got to focus on other needs to make sure that the other positions are taken care of and solidified, I'm not taking that risk for a quarterback. But despite who the guy is name-wise.
But especially when it comes to draft capital, because this year the Steelers don't have a lot of draft capital as of right now. They could make moves. They can make changes. As of right now, they're only guaranteed one comp pick. When a year ago at this time, we were looking at, what was it, three or four of them? And now we're only going to be handed one, which is a fourth rounder, thanks to Bud Dupree. That's it. So you're telling me we only have a first rounder, a second rounder, a third rounder, that fourth comp that we're going to get from Dupree. We already traded a fourth to trade into the fifth round for Loudermilk last year. We traded a fifth for Akello Witherspoon. We traded a sixth for Joe Schobert. And we're probably going to have 1 or 2 seventh rounders.
And I believe we forfeited one because Joe Haig got over 25% of his snaps this year.
Or wasn't that a comp pick?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think it was a comp pick.
So we're looking at, what, 5, maybe 6 picks this year, if that?
And do you want to trade the majority of that away? Do you want to give all that away for one guy?
And of course,
is it really worth it when you got other positions that you got to focus on as well?
Because of how limited our draft capital is this year, you would be forced to trade some capital next year to get whoever that is. But would Kevin Colbert specifically want to put an Omar Khan or Brandon Hunt? Would he want to limit them in their first year as a general manager? Would he want to limit their draft ability, their draft capital in their first year? I doubt that. So Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Jimmy Garoppolo, I'm going to say it right now, and you guys, I understand it's a pipe dream, but it's not going to happen.
Nor should it happen, honestly.
So we're going to toss that out the way. They're not going to be options. Just want to get that off our chest. But guys that could for sure be options are actual free agent quarterbacks. Now, Jimmy G could be a free agent quarterback. We might not have to trade for him, but he's going to want some big money, which I don't think we can afford to give a major quarterback.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm not big on Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he's one of the guys that the Steelers should stay away, whether he's a free agent or not.
Right. But guys that'll actually be free agents this upcoming free agency, which is just a month and a half away, now these are some of the bigger names. I'm not going to go over every single name that you guys see on the screen. Fitzpatrick, Andy Dalton, Cam Newton. That's not going to happen.
No, definitely not.
But guys that could be options, and just based off what Mike Tomlin and the front office have preached over the last 6 months, Tyrod Taylor could be an option because he has starting experience. He has the mobility Tomlin has preached. He can be a cheap option, and he also has experienced not only being a gap quarterback, but playing in part before putting in someone else. If you guys get my drift there. Jameis Winston. Now, I always liked Jameis Winston. I thought he still had potential to be a decent quarterback. Of course, he only signed a 1-year deal with the Saints this past year, and that ultimately ended when he tore his ACL. So, I don't know if the Saints are going to bring him back. It's a new change of scenery for the Saints, since Sean Payton retired as well. So I don't know what they're going to do at the quarterback position. They could bring him back, or he could be a free agent. The Steelers could pick him up. He could go elsewhere. But the thing to note about Winston is for mini/training camp, he will probably start on the PUP list. So do you really want to sign a guy like Winston who will be able to practice at the start of training camp?
Yeah, I mean, Winston is definitely a intriguing and interesting prospect in free agency. But, I mean, even with his season, this past season with the Saints, it wasn't really too stellar. Granted, he had a lot of injuries surrounding him, including himself getting injured, but
you also got to mention, he had no receivers.
That's what I'm saying, because Michael Thomas was hurt and everybody else just couldn't stay healthy to save their freaking life.
So Winston could be a pretty decent option. I've always liked Winston, but I don't know if they want to go with that injury factor this year. Teddy Bridgewater. This guy is the definition of a gap quarterback, of a bridge quarterback.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like Teddy Bridgewater is a stellar. I'm not saying he's a great quarterback by any means, but he's a stellar guy. I feel like he finds a way to continue a drive, to try to win a game here and there. He's a man that somehow, some way can still manage to win some games, even in bad predicaments.
And he is a good leader.
Very good leader.
Now, he's not the greatest quarterback by any means. That's why I said he's the definition of a gap quarterback. That's all he's done pretty much the majority of his career. He was a unintentional, but eventually intentional gap guy for Kirk Cousins. And then he was with the Saints, and then he signed with
the Panthers for 1 year. That didn't work out.
And then he traded to the Broncos, and, I mean, he's just a gap guy all his career.
So if there's an option for a true gap quarterback, Bridgewater could very well be the perfect guy.
Could be.
I would have to imagine that he's going to want a pretty penny as well for what he's already shown to the table a couple times in his career.
Right. Marcus Mariota. This is a very popular name surrounding Steeler Nation because this is the one guy everyone's been talking about. The guy that everyone's name dropped is Marcus Mariota. Obviously a former first-round pick. He, this past year, was more of a gadget quarterback similar to a Taysom Hill, where he was using a lot of wildcat read options, and he pretty much succeeded in that realm. His greatest attraction is, of course, mobility. So he would fit Mike Tomlin's need and his wants. He'd also fit Matt Canada's system. So Mariota, when I look at the free agency list, Mariota is one of the guys that pops out to me because of what the Steelers have been preaching and what they want in a quarterback, whether that's long-term or just a short-term gap guy, which is what I think Mariota would ultimately be as a gap guy. But
of course.
Tomlin wants that mobility, and that's what Mariota would bring to the table. He does have experience making the playoffs, leading his team to the playoffs, and winning playoff games. He kind of has the tools that the Steelers are looking at. You know what I'm saying?
For what Tomlin has been preaching and what Tomlin would want for a veteran mobility type of player, Mariota could very well be that guy.
But also because Art Rooney II has already said next year they're not looking at it as a rebuild year. I mean, I doubt he would even go out and say it like that, but the Steelers are never going to try to rebuild, a.k.a. tank, because that's not what they do. Mariota would, I guess, given his resume and the talent he would have around him, if we do build around him, fingers crossed, he could give us a decent shot to still potentially make the playoffs next year. And that's what they're going to look at Mariota as. A guy that brings them the attraction and the attributes that they've been wanting in a quarterback all season, but also a guy that has experience leading his team to the playoffs.
Yeah, and when he was with Tennessee, he was nothing great at all. He never lived up to that second overall potential, but he was still a guy that at times was very good, especially with the mobility. Like, he was a guy that was able to use his feet to extend plays, continue drives, get into the end zone. As a matter of fact, I believe he's, perfect in the red zone, if I'm not mistaken. Like, he hasn't thrown an interception or something like that.
I believe you're correct.
In the red zone. So when it comes to that, that's definitely something to look at, because that's probably where he's best at. That's where he's always helped his team, whether it was the Titans or the Raiders.
And I've always thought that Pittsburgh, the Steelers specifically, was the best place for second chances. Now, I'm going to give you guys a short little list here of guys that pretty much, back up my statement there.
That resurrected their career in some fashion.
Jerome Bettis, D'Angelo Williams, Tommy Maddox. I'll even throw in Dwayne Haskins. There's so many guys I'm probably forgetting to name, but those are just some of the guys I look at firsthand. That, Joe Hayden. How about Joe Hayden?
Yeah, can't forget about Joe Hayden.
Those are guys that came to Pittsburgh for a second chance and pretty much revived their careers.
Oh, you can even say Tyson Alualu. He's never looked any better than he ever has in his career
when
he was with the Jaguars.
So now this could be said for a lot of the guys we mentioned. A Winston, a Mariota, right? So
a Bridgewater potentially, but I don't know. Mariota when it comes to these free agent quarterbacks that we're looking at right now, he's the one that really sticks out to me, because I feel like I don't think he's overly bad. I don't think he's overly good, but I think he's a very, very nice and decent gap quarterback.
He has the tools that the Steelers are looking at to try to remain competitive, pretty much. And going on to another guy that could benefit from the Steelers being the best place for second chances is another former first-round pick, Mitchell Trubisky.
Mitchell Trubisky, man. Former Bears quarterback, now the Bills back up to Josh Allen, and very well could be more likely a free agent and potentially the next Steelers quarterback if they're interested in him. And Trubisky, this man did not live up to his potential as well, being, what overall was he, third overall pick?
Second overall.
Second overall as the Bears traded up for him. He has not lived up to anything. Granted, he didn't have the best coaches around him. He didn't really have the best surround system around him when it comes to coaching. Matt Nagy did no favors for Mitchell Trubisky,
right,
and the Bears in general.
Although towards the end of his tenure in Chicago, he did start to show a little bit of promise.
Yeah, a lot of promise. He actually was one of the helping factors in which got the Bears to their last playoff performance.
Right. So Trubisky could be another guy that could benefit from the Steelers being a good place for second chances, but also because obviously the quarterback position is so wide open that a lot of free agents, like a Mariota, like a Trubisky, like a Winston, could be targeting Pittsburgh because they know that position's wide open for them.
It gets them the second chance. It gives them a true opportunity to start again, to showcase their potential, their capabilities as a starting quarterback in the National Football League.
So those are some of the guys that we just named in the free agency pile that could land in Pittsburgh. Honestly, the way I'm looking at it is, and we'll get into it since we're going to get into the draft here, I'm not looking to draft the future this year.
This year, no. Honestly, I feel like the Steelers shouldn't rush quarterback. I feel like they should remain patient. Now, don't get me wrong. Quarterback is a need. Quarterback is definitely a need, but I don't think it's one of the needs that you got to get immediately. I think it's something that you should be patient with, especially with this quarterback draft class that isn't too stellar or isn't too stacked. It's actually kind of weak. The only guy that really sticks out to me this year in the draft class is Kenny Pickett out of Pittsburgh.
But going into the draft and Kenny Pickett, there's two guys that will probably be taken before our pick 20. Two quarterbacks, and that's Kenny Pickett and Matt Corral. That's about it. Those are two guys you would have to trade up for. And going back to the point with Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson and Jimmy Garoppolo, we don't have the capital to trade up for a quarterback, especially if you were to trade up in the draft for a quarterback where teams know you're trading up for a quarterback. They're going to ask for a pretty penny.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And again, would Colbert want to limit the next GM in his first draft next year by trading some of the picks for next year? I don't think that's good. So I'm not looking into this season, or I'm not looking into this offseason as grabbing the future or grabbing the next Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback that could lead the team for however long, right? The next franchise.
Yeah.
The hair to bend, whatever you want to say, right?
Whatever term you want to use.
But you have to look at NFL draft quarterbacks as options.
Yeah, you do, for sure.
And maybe the Steelers do go, just based on what we think doesn't mean that's what the Steelers are thinking. So maybe they do go after a quarterback. So options at the quarterback position in the draft, obviously, now I'm just going to name the top 6 here because they're the more realistic options. Of course, Kenny Pickett, Matt Corral, Sam Howell, Malik Willis, Desmond Ridder, and Carson Strong. Now, again, like we said, I think Pickett and Corral are going to be 2 guys off the board by pick 20. Sam Howell could very well be one of our guys, if I'm going to be real with you. So,
he could very well be the selection.
So could a Malik Willis. This is a guy that, brings a lot of mobility to the table. He's very athletic. Now, he's raw. He's probably the rawest of the group.
But I'll say this about Malik Willis. He's got a ton of upside.
Right.
At least in my honest opinion. I think Willis, if he's developed right, if he's not rushed into a starting position, I think Willis could really do something in the NFL.
But the same could be said for a Sam Howell or a Desmond Ridder. 2 guys that also bring mobility to the table.
And 2 guys that are stellar, that are very talented. It's just when it comes to those guys, including Carson Strong, when it comes for me though, I just don't think that they're guys that could really be franchise guys or that could lead the team to anywhere or something like that. And when it comes to, if the Steelers were to pick a quarterback in the first round, if it's not a Kenny Pickett or a Matt Corral, I don't think that if it's a quarterback, I don't think they're going to beat out Mason Rudolph or Dwayne Haskins or a potential free agent quarterback that we may bring in.
I wouldn't imagine so.
I mean, that's just my honest opinion. And again, it goes back to me saying I don't think we should rush quarterback or try to find the heir to quarterback immediately. I look at some scenarios like the New England Patriots, when Tom Brady initially left, and they didn't rush for a quarterback. Like, that's Tom Brady literally walking out the door in New England. Like, you have to imagine that they were potentially thinking, more likely thinking, of getting a future quarterback, their franchise quarterback. They decided to wait. They decided to give a Jarrett Stidham an opportunity. Now, that obviously didn't work. Jarrett Stidham's nothing. But they also signed Cam Newton. They tried to give him a chance. That didn't work out, but that's the thing. They gave these guys opportunities. They gave these guys chances, and it didn't work. But even with those guys in, they still managed to be a competitive team. They ultimately led to a losing season and no playoff appearance, but that's what benefited them because now they got a young stud quarterback in Mac Jones that could very well lead that team to a lot of great seasons and potentially a Super Bowl down the road if you were to develop under Belichick's system, which I feel like is the best system for Mac Jones. I think he can do great for New England. And I also look at the New Orleans Saints potentially right now since Drew Brees retired.
So you think they could be going down the same path?
I honestly, I feel like that could very well be the same case for the New Orleans Saints. And in my honest opinion, I feel like that's what the Steelers could potentially try to experiment. At least I feel like I kind of hope they do that. But that's ultimately up to, obviously, Mike Tomlin, Kevin Colbert, and the Pittsburgh Steelers if they want to do that. I just kind of hope that they don't rush quarterback this year.
I wouldn't hope so either. But
because this quarterback class isn't really that stacked or that talented. Now, don't get me wrong, these guys are talented, but I don't think they're really future franchise guys that can lead this team for 10 some odd years or so. Just in my honest opinion.
Right.
Now, that's hard to tell because, I could say Kenny Pickett could be a franchise guy. We technically don't know that. We just got to see how he evaluates going into the NFL.
Everyone, deals with transition differently. So
yeah.
But obviously we're going to mention the NFL draft quarterbacks because they will be options. I'm sure Tomlin and company are going to be looking at these guys greatly in the combine, at mobile, throughout the entire offseason heading into the NFL draft. So those are guys we're going to mention. And believe me, there's guys on that list I really like. Kenny Pickett would be the dream, but obviously he's going to be the first quarterback off the board in my opinion. Sam Howell, Malik Willis could be guys that could be taken at 20. If the Steelers are lucky, Malik Willis could be taken in the second round. So could a Desmond Ridder, honestly. Those are 2 guys that are going to have to sit, honestly. Well, so would Sam Howell. So whoever you grab, if you grab a quarterback outside of the top 2, in my opinion, they would obviously have to sit. And that would be probably behind, like Rob said, a Mason Rudolph, a Dwayne Haskins, maybe a free agent quarterback we pick up. which honestly, if you ask me, if the Steelers go the route of Mason Rudolph, Dwayne Haskins, maybe Josh Dobbs, because I'll throw his name in there, and a free agent quarterback, I think quarterback could be off the board for the Steelers unless someone drops, and then you go that guy that you just can't pass on.
Yeah, potentially.
But at that point, the quarterback room, not talented whatsoever, it doesn't have a lot of upside, believe me. And it's probably incredibly weak. But it's pretty much set if you look at it from a number and a depth aspect. For example, maybe we pick up a Mariota, and we have Rudolph, and we have Haskins. Those are your three guys going into training camp fighting for the number one quarterback spot. And Haskins has been tendered. He's a restricted free agent, so
he's not going anywhere.
He's going to get the original round tender. Thus, he'll get $2.5 million, and he will get a shot at the number one quarterback spot. And so will Mason Rudolph. I don't know where the Mason Rudolph hate came or
why he gets so much hate. Like, I don't understand why this guy is so hated in the Pittsburgh area. Like, I don't understand where it come from. I don't know what you guys expect from the guy.
Listen, I'm not the biggest Mason Rudolph fan.
Listen, we're not Mason Rudolph fans or stands. We're not Dwayne Haskins fans or stands, but I'd be willing to give these guys the opportunity. I really would, especially since a Hall of Fame quarterback like Ben Roethlisberger is retired. Those two young guys, man, that were under Ben, that learned from Ben, you know they're definitely going to want to try to take that opportunity.
Right.
Grab the brass ring and see how far they can run with it. I'd be up to giving these guys the opportunity, as well as a free agent quarterback.
Now, I truly do believe that the future of this team is not on this actual team. It's not. I don't think it's Mason. I don't think it's Haskins and whoever we pick on free agency. I doubt it's going to be that. I think this year they're going to go through a gap situation, and I think that's the right way to go.
Now, listen, I'm fine with that because when you look at the team right now, like I said earlier, quarterback is definitely a position of need, but so is a lot of other positions. Cornerback, Joe Hayden will be on his way out more than likely. Maybe wide receiver, Juju. We don't know what's up with him. James Washington's on his way out the door.
And, of course, we know the O-line is so bad.
And honestly, offensive line has to be number one priority.
It needs to be top priority.
Not just in free agency, because I don't think they're going to fix the whole O-line in free agency, nor should you. I think you should actually go into the draft and try to make O-line a priority as well.
I agree. In this upcoming season, man, you know, we've said it a few times, especially towards the end of the season, hell, during the actual season, as a matter of fact, I would go this season as building everything around the quarterback position before getting your future and possibly 2023 under the next GM. Maybe that's what Colbert does. Maybe he builds everything around the future before letting the next guy in line grab the future. Maybe that's what they do. And honestly, I wouldn't have a problem with that because I think that's what they have to do. And most of the reason is because, one, although, listen, I know it's not desired, it's not the greatest thing, it's definitely not threatening when you look at the AFC North. I understand that. But with Mason Rudolph, Dwayne Haskins, and a cheap free agent, it would be the cheapest route we would have so that we can, again, not convincing, not desired, but secure the quarterback position for 2022.
And you can still remain competitive with those guys in there because let's not forget, Mike Tomlin went 8-8. He managed not to have a losing record. I know that's very stale saying that and everything like that. That's the only thing he's really achieved in how many years with the Steelers since his last Super Bowl. But he managed to go 8-8 with Mason Rudolph and Devlin Duck Hodges. But we were still competitive that year because the positions were filled, the O-line was okay at the time, and the defense was probably the most stacked we've ever seen in recent memory for the Steelers.
But now you have a first-round running back in Najee Harris who just made the Pro Bowl this year as an alternate, as a replacement for Joe Mixon. So you can run with Najee, and fingers crossed they sign the number 2 running back to split with Najee because I'm not trying to give that man 400 carries a fucking season.
That's another thing you got to take care of. Depth. Wide receiver depth, running back depth, edge depth. That's
another video for another day. But I would stick with Mason, Haskins, and a free agent quarterback and have them battle for the number 1 quarterback spot for this upcoming season only, and then focus most of my capital, most of my cap space on everything around quarterback. Whether that's what they do, time will tell. I would hope that's what they do.
Fingers crossed that's what they do.
Because I think it's the best way to go. No one on this team and no one out there is the future. when you look at the free agency realm, no one out there in free agency is the future. No one on this team is the future. But I'm not trying to rush the future when we have so many other positions we have to fix.
Of course.
So,
if you ask me, the draft class next year for quarterback is much more stacked and stellar, if you ask me.
I would agree.
So I feel like you don't need to rush quarterback as of this moment. You can wait and you can have nothing but a gap guy because, honestly, that's all I see, and I'm okay with that. I've accepted it, and I'm cool with it because I feel like that's what the Steelers should do, and I feel like that's what can help them at least reload. Let's throw rebuild out the window. More so reload.
Yeah, because they're going to remain competitive. So I suppose reload would be the proper wording.
Yeah, so they can reload, take care of the other positions that we got to take care of when it comes to bringing our guys back that we may want to re-sign and extend, as well as bringing guys in free agency and the draft. And then you can still have a competitive season because the Steelers, no matter what, no matter who they got, they will always remain competitive.
That's just how they work.
And then you can go into next offseason, then you grab your guy. And then you should be good to go for how many years? I mean, I'd be cool with that. I think that could be a perfect scenario.
Whether that's the way they go, time will tell. I don't know. This is going to be a very interesting and very important offseason because change is here. Change is near. Colbert, this will be his last offseason for the Steelers. It is confirmed he will leave after the draft. What will he do? Especially at the quarterback position. Again, I would go with Mason. I'd go with Haskins. Maybe bring back Dobbs for extra competition. Maybe you work him and some read options under Matt Canada's system and bring in a free agent quarterback to battle for the number one quarterback spot. Then just build everything around before grabbing a future the following year. Maybe that's what they do. Time will tell.
Time will tell, but it's going to be one of the most anticipating and investing and interesting off seasons in recent memory for the Pittsburgh Steelers and for Kevin Colbert's final year as Steelers general manager.
Because it is the end of an era. Ben has officially retired, and the quarterback position is wide open for the Steelers. So free agents are going to line up to come to Pittsburgh. Again, the best place for second chances, but Mason and Haskins are two hungry guys. So I don't know what they do.
I mean, there's a lot of options on the table, and I'm sure the Steelers are going to look at every single one of them, no matter what. No matter what we've said already, it's up to what the Steelers do, and I do trust them to an extent because they're in this position for a reason. And I'm ready to see what they do when it comes to the quarterback situation. First time in 18 years, this is a position of need that they are definitely going to put a lot in investment in, I am sure.
I'm very excited. This is very, very interesting for the Steelers. It's going to be a very important offseason to see what they do because this offseason, whether we get a quarterback or not for the future, it will determine what the future will look like. Will they build everything around quarterback, or will they go with quarterback and then follow to build everything around him afterward? What are they going to do? Let us know your guys' thoughts down below. Who could we pick up? Maybe there's names we missed. Put them down in the comments, man. Guys that you would want the Steelers to pick up. You know, let us know down below. What would you guys do? Let us know down in the comments below. But we'll see what the Steelers do. It's going to be very interesting in these next couple weeks and months leading up towards the draft. That will really give us a look at what the draft is going to pan out for the Steelers in Colbert's final offseason. So it's going to be interesting. But those are our thoughts. Those are our options that we looked at. And those are our feelings for the quarterback position heading into this upcoming postseason for the Steelers. So let us know your guys' thoughts and your feelings. And see you guys in the next one.
Like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you later.
Peace!